love to start by bringing up our very first speaker, which is MR Rangaswami, who's a software executive, investor, entrepreneur. He's a corporate eco-strategy expert, community builder, and philanthropist. This guy is a super rock star, and he really helped with the rapid expansion of the Silicon Valley. He started his own in 1997. He co-founded Sandhill Group, an investment and consulting group. And then you could do investments at sandhill.com. And which is an online resource for software business strategy. In 2007, he formed the Corporate Eco Forum, an organization that is dedicated to effectiveness of eco strategy. And then in 2012, he started Indiaspora, which is to unite Indian Americans to transform their success into meaningful impact in India and on the global stage. All right, so MR, here you are. I love it. I can't wait to hear what you're going to say, but I want to ask you this. What is your word, your impact word for this year? What's your word of intent for this year?
Network.
Network. I love it. All right. Okay, cool. I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Chitra, and all the women of the cloud. Thank you for having me here. Again, I'm going to tell you a story that's going to sound kind of weird or strange. This is the story of 4,000 business cards. What do I mean by that? What do 4,000 business cards mean? This is the problem I had when I left my last corporate job in 1996. My executive assistant was nice enough to pack up all my business cards into nice binders and send them home with me. So here I am, trying to become an angel investor, one of the early angel investors, the pioneer in that field, in 1996, and what I have with me are 4,000 business cards of everybody I've met over the past decade or so in my corporate life as a technology person, a technology executive. So what would most people do with 4,000 business cards? There's no LinkedIn, there's no Facebook, there's no social media in those days. Email is just starting to come about. So what do you do with 4,000 cards? That's the question I was pondering. I think most people would have said, how can I use these people to get ahead in my own agenda? How do I connect with people to get a job or to get a deal or to get funding or to find investors? That's what most people would be driven to do. But let me tell you what I did that was different than the pack. This is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, between networking, which means implementing your own agenda, what's in it for me kind of approach, to building a network or a community, which is for the greater good of everybody. So that was the path I took, was to build a network with these 4,000 individuals. So what I did was I said, if I needed to keep in touch with this community, maybe I should build a conference instead of trying to approach them individually for a specific item. By building a conference, you build a community. By building a community, it's for the greater good. It's not just for yourself. So what I did, and I'll spend the next 10 minutes walking you through, is changing from networking to how do you personally build a network or a community that makes an impact for everybody. So the first network I started out doing at that time is called, or was called, and is called Enterprise. Enterprise is a gathering of the top 100 people in the software ecosystem, CEOs, venture capitalists, and all the others surrounding this network, CIOs, CTOs, and such. So how did I go about building this community, and how did that become very different than all the other conferences there are out there? So the way I did it was I made this philanthropic right from the beginning. So we would invite the top 100 leaders in tech together. Everybody would pay to attend, including the keynotes. And then we would take the entire profits of this conference and give it to nonprofits in the community. So started this over 20 years ago. And over time, we have given away over $2 million to nonprofits because of this conference. And this conference has become really a community, because once you start giving and not taking, it becomes a completely different environment. So these 100 people that come together each year really have formed a network, have formed a community to do good, as opposed to what's in it for me. So that's the first community that I started, and I used the business model to create the community. The business model was 100% of the profits go to nonprofits. And these nonprofits not only would get money, they would get mentors, board members, and additional funding from these top 100 leaders because they all ran successful companies and they would actually be able to get additional funding. So that was the first network I started, and I got tremendous amount of satisfaction by doing this as opposed to trying to reach out to people just for my agenda. So then a few years ago, I was starting to get curious about other things in life. I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm always looking for new ideas. At that time, my two daughters were 8 and 10, and I was trying to be a good role model to my kids. And so in this case, I said, people told me, hey, why don't you do something in the green tech or clean tech space? You know, that's the new area of focus. But keep in mind, this was 2007. People weren't talking about sustainability and ESG and all the other wonderful things people talk about today. But I decided to go ahead and look into this space at that time. So the model here was different. I didn't know anything about green or clean or any of that stuff. I was an average person. So how did I do that? I decided to do research. So for 6 months, I spent talking to what was called a chief sustainability officer in Fortune 500 companies. I got to about 60 of them, did a research report on what the latest and greatest challenges and issues and opportunities were in the sustainability space. By doing that, I earned the trust of this community, put out a report for the benefit of the community, and then we started this organization called the Corporate Eco Forum. The Corporate Eco Forum has now become a group of 70 of the world's largest companies, including companies like Microsoft and Google and Apple and Amazon, but many others like Ford and General Motors, you name it. We engage with all their chief sustainability officers to mitigate climate risk, reduce greenhouse gases, improve their purchase of renewable energy, to build sustainable supply chains and so forth. And this has been my second community that was created, again, to do good, to make the world a better place, to reduce greenhouse gases, to leave the world a better place for our children and grandchildren. So that was the second network I started. Again, it's a network, not networking. It's a community, a high impact community that wants to do more for the world. A few years ago later, I had the bug to do a third network. And so this time I focused on my own ethnicity. I'm an Indian American, came over from India 4 decades ago, and I said, how can I help this community? Again, the Indian American community had grown in stature and influence. We are 1% of the US population, highest earning demographic. Even though we're 1% of the population, we're 7% of the doctors, 10% of the IT workforce. All this rah-rah stuff was going on, but then people started saying, so what is your influence? How are you impacting the United States in a positive way? And that's when I decided that I should start a third network called Indiaspora. And Indiaspora now was started by not just me thinking about it, but by talking to over 100 community members across the United States and then convening them to a meeting to discuss what the community needed and what we needed to do. So again, being inclusive, bringing artists, academics, tech entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, doctors, lawyers, all together to form this community. And again, a nonprofit. So the 3 groups that have started to date, one is called Enterprise. The website is sandhill.com for that one. For the Corporate Eco Forum, it's ecoforum.com. And for Indiaspora, indiaspora.org. Again, you see that each community has its own goals and own objectives. They all want to do better for the world. And they all got started because of 4,000 business cards I had in binders. Okay, so I could have, like I said, taken one approach. I took the approach of starting communities, and that, ladies and gentlemen, has become my passion. So what is my message to you today? And I hope I've inspired you to take a look at how you can form your own network or your own community, right? So you need to be an entrepreneur in this area. You might be a professional working for a company, But when you form your own network, you are the entrepreneur. So what do you need to do? You need to ideate. You need to think about what your community can look like, what your network should look like. Then what should you do? You should explore. Do you get an advisory board? Do you go talk to community members? Do you get a board of directors? Do you get a group together to form around a cause? That should be your next step. And then finally, it's a just do it Nike slogan. You have to go do it. Because a lot of times we think, we procrastinate, we ideate, but we just are hesitant to take that next step. And not all networks will succeed. Not all communities will succeed. I've had so many ups and downs creating each one of these organizations that it's not all fun and all glory. Lots of hard work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and lots of up and downs. But try it. And I think you'll be gratified to change from networking to network. And I think what this will give you an opportunity to do is to find yourself, to do more than your job, and to do this for the greater good of whatever cause you are undertaking. Okay. So that's kind of the approach I take. What are some of the value systems you might want to consider in your community? One is it's for the greater good. It can't be for any individual. Two, it's got to come with inclusion. You can't exclude people from community. The third thing is to help each other. You have to come in as a giver and not a taker. And so these are some of the principles I have used in building these communities. And again, it doesn't have to be a large community. It can be a very small community. It makes impact in your own way. But keep in mind, this is something that I would urge all of you to do, all of you to explore. And I think this will help all of you, give you guys a platform to kind of enumerate your causes, to amplify on things you're passionate about. And that's why I started with 4,000 business cards 25 years ago. And now I've ended up with 3 different networks, the Enterprise CEO Network and Retreat, the Eco Forum and Indiaspora. But in each case, my journey is not complete. The journey of these communities is not complete. These are thriving, growing communities, growing in influence, growing in giving, and growing in stature, but the job is not done, because once you start these communities, they have a life of their own. And so I urge you to take a look at the websites I mentioned, sandhill.com, ecoforum.com, and also indiaspora.org. And also, if you do want to connect with me, I'm happy to meet with people, happy to help you with your journey of building a community. And so you can feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. And once again, I hope I've spent my 10 minutes very productively inspiring you and giving you a path to create your own network. And I really want to applaud Chaitra and the Women in Cloud for having created this incredible community. We have participated with all of you in fundraising for great causes in the past. And I really applaud Women in the Cloud and what you've done. And I wish you all the best in building this network and taking it to greater heights. So thank you once again for listening to me, and good luck with the rest of the event.
Thanks so much, MR. Appreciate you sharing that. That was fantastic. I got some great tips from you. Find yourself through serving others. Couple of values, do it for the greater good, be a giver. I love all that. And thanks for sharing your story.